Good afternoon and welcome to the Budget Committee meeting. It is June the 11th, 2024, 1 p.m. I call this meeting to order. First up is the approval of the agenda.
Resolves that the agenda for the June 11th, 2024 Budget Committee meeting be approved as presented.
Councillor Sloan, are you willing to move that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Deputy Warden Jones will second. All in favor? That is carried. Adoption of the minutes.
Resolves that the minutes of the Budget Committee meeting held on February 13th, 2024 be adopted.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hentz. And Deputy Warden Jones will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Remind everyone on the committee of disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Being none noted, we have no delegations, which brings us to section 6, reports, briefings. 6.1, the Chief Administrative Officer Clerk, Budget Committee terms of reference. Blaine, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Two members of committee. This is an item that I have spoken briefly on to members of council, probably on a couple of occasions. And my recommendation to committee is that we essentially evolve the budget committee to more of a finance committee and modify the terms of reference to capture, I think, more of a longer view or a broader perspective by the committee. And this is driven by a couple of things. There has been some discussion around the council table with respect to the growth reserve that we are continuing to manage and to add to with surpluses at the end of the year. So there's been some discussion around how to manage that reserve, what it should be used for, things like that. So one of the things that Ms. Ford and I have discussed is the development of a financial policies framework to guide our recommendations to committee and council, as well as council's consideration of various items of a financial nature, so that financial policies framework would consider things like reserve management, debt management, things like that. So I think that's one area that I think that this committee ought to be focused on a little bit broader is building that more policy framework. The other element that Ms. Ford and I have discussed is the need for a long-range financial plan. And this is a key element that I would recommend the committee and council consider as we move forward. With respect to growth in the community, we will start to see obviously larger and larger amounts of growth and a faster and faster pace. And if we, I think, have a longer view of the financial situation and the financial position of the county, then that would serve the county longer term very well. So it would be certainly one other element that I would suggest that the finance committee, if committee so chooses and council agrees, that they would focus on, as well as guiding that policy development, guiding the development of a long-range financial plan and using it to guide further decision-making from a financial perspective. So that at a high level, Mr. Warden, is my thoughts on why I think that it would be prudent for the county to at least consider evolving the budget committee from more or less a sort of a once a time or once a single purpose in an annual basis to more of a regular basis and guiding the overall financial direction of the organization in the county. But I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for that, Blaine. I'm going to, before I open it up for any questions from the committee members, and Deputy Warden Jones, you can correct me, but if I recall, back in 2019, it kind of was the, perhaps not, I'm going to say vision of council, thinking that the budget committee would evolve to be more than just a budget committee, but somewhat of a budget finance committee. And so perhaps in keeping with Blaine's comments, that's perhaps what you're urging is us to move on in that direction. And I think that's what was envisioned with the previous term. And if this term thinks the same way, then I think it's a good idea. Then I'll open it up for comments and or questions.
Yes, no, yeah, I agree. That was something that was contemplated at the time, didn't materialize for whatever reason. But I think it's long overdue that we head this direction.
Andrew, please.
Sorry, thank you very much through you, Mr. Warden, to Blaine. Thank you, Blaine. I think it's a important initiative. Appreciate you bringing this forward. And one of the things is that, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but we're a $100 million corporation. I would ask that when you consider the new finance committee, that you think about things like quarterly reports and updates. I have a tremendous interest in things like what we're doing with cash flow, with short-term investments, depending on interest rates. And then it's music to my ears when you talk about longer term. But we've got the opportunity in an interested group here who all have various backgrounds and wanting to contribute to the financial security. So I'm very pleased and thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you for those comments. Anything, Mike? Are you good?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. I agree. I think it's a step when you look at Elgin County and the size of our budget. And a budget committee just sounds like you meet once or twice a year and you talk about the budget. Well, there's more to it than that. There's building a budget. There's direction that's more than 1 year in duration that we should be looking at. So I think it's a terrific idea.
Well, me too. You know, in addition to the comments being offered, to me, it fulfills a sense of transparency. It fulfills perhaps an expectation from the public from a monitoring point of view. It's just part of the teamwork. You know, we're not trying to pull the wool over staff's eyes. Staff aren't trying to pull the wool over the elected side. It's a team. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this committee would be reporting back to council. If there's something that needs to be addressed, then it can be fixed at that time. If it isn't, then again, it lends some, I guess you could say, comfort level at the elected side that things are on course as council directed. Just my thoughts. Why don't we turn it over to our professional side? Any comments?
I have no comments at this time other than I'm in agreement with it. I feel that it would be a great support for the finance team to know that we're on the right track and for you to understand a little bit about what we do and how we do it and that you're comfortable with what we're doing. So I think that it will be serve both sides.
Does anyone else? Peter?
As you're aware, Mr. Warden, a lot of the county spending is through the capital plan.
Mhm.
And that plan is a long-term document. And it's becoming more and more dynamic. So it isn't something that we can just visit once a year. I think it would benefit from looking at future infrastructure investments to have a continual dialogue in that respect.
I agree. Grant, please.
Thanks. And just to further the comments that when Mike and I went to college, we had to do 5-year plans. We had with a 10-year horizon on what you thought might be out there. And that's way back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this, and it's taken this long for a multi-million corporation to adopt that. And I appreciate with the asset management that we can push to that. Should have probably happened a long, long time ago, but the province finally got smart and made us do it.
Blaine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And just further to Mr. Duchek's comments and Deputy Warden Jones' comments, the long-range financial plan is really the tool that it's an evolving tool that's constantly being revised and updated, but it's one of the only tools that you'll find that will bring both of the concepts that those two gentlemen mentioned, whether it's the long-range capital plan, where we're looking to invest more in the growth of the county or in things like that, as well as incorporating the asset management requirements of the county. So what you'll see sometimes is municipalities that venture down the path of fairly intense periods of growth, they forget about what they already own because all the focus is on trying to keep up with the growth that the municipality has to manage. But really, you're trying to balance the two and continually to invest in your existing assets to maintain your service levels while you're trying to balance the future investments in the growth of the county. This is a tool that would allow you to monitor that and essentially turn various dials that would allow you to either increase or decrease the level of investment in various areas and then see the results of those decisions. So it's a tool where all of that information can come together.
And thank you for those comments. Yeah. I think it aligns nicely with the implementation of your new financial software, which should not increase the burden on your staff for facilitating this, but complement it. Jen? That's coming up.
Yes, through you, Mr. Warden, to the committee. We do have the good bones of a 10-year plan, and we do have in that 10-year plan the implementation of recycling the assets and whatnot. So I think it's good for this committee to understand what we do have in place already and to be comfortable that we're on the right track in that manner. And yes, our new software will help us with that.
Anyone else? Any comments, reservations, concerns, questions? You have a motion to receive? Thank you.
That the Budget Committee evolve into a Finance Committee with a focus on financial policy development and long-range financial planning, and that an updated terms of reference be developed for consideration by the Budget Committee and County Council.
Having heard the motion, anyone interested in moving? Counselor Hentz and Deputy Warden Jones? All in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you. Let's move on with 6.2 then, the Chief Administrative Officer Clerk and Director of Financial Services, Public Engagement Review.
Through you, Mr. Warden, to the committee. The purpose of this report today is for staff to take this opportunity to gather some feedback from the committee on the effectiveness of our attempts to engage the public in our budget process and realign the process where necessary in advance of the 2025 budget process. As we move into that cycle, we want to have a good handle on what is expected before we put a lot of effort into that next cycle. So we're bringing forward for you on the next slide the timeline that we had used last period for the survey, which was September 12th through to, I believe, October 12th, where we posted, you approved the budget survey. We posted that live on Engage Elgin for the public to review and have their input. The budget survey was placed throughout different county facilities, such as the libraries. And we had some paid advertising in newspapers such as the Aylmer Express with a link to the budget survey on Facebook. On the next slide, we're showing that the budget was in effect until October 9th, at which time we took it down and we did the compilation of all the results. Under other outreach areas, it's showing there that we also advertised in the CAO update, included it in our October and September economic development newsletter, included it in our Elgin County Tourism e-blast, the Aylmer Chamber e-blast. So there were several ways that we tried to reach out to the public in order to engage them in this process. One of the other things that we tried last year, which was an interesting process on the next slide, was our slice of the pie. We asked respondents to tell us how they would like to slice the pie, and hopefully, and we gave out some pie as for the winners who did respond. And we just wanted to again thank Grandma's Oven and Great Lakes for generously donating some pies to that process. A lot of people thought we were actually asking them about how do you actually slice pie, but that wasn't what the intent was. So the next slide was the Facebook advertising results. So these do cost us money. So cost per click is point or half a cent, I believe it is. It's not a lot, but it does cost us. We reached out to 17,737 people. Not all of those do we have demographic of whether they were Elgin County residents or just general folks. 568 clicks through Facebook. And then their demographic is there for the audience that we received that responded to that. The next slide. 884 people visited the Engage Elgin website. And of those people, 220 responses were received, which is about a quarter of the people who actually filled out the survey. And then on the next slide, this is the most interesting information because it does give you an overview of the 3 years compared to when we started the budget survey in 22 and then up to last year. And a comparison indicated that while we had the most visitors last year, we did not have the highest number of respondents. So that seems to indicate that the survey either needs to itself be refreshed or maybe too long. Over the years, we've refreshed the survey in order to further explain and outline other areas of the county, such as our responsibility versus our local partner responsibility, and in the hopes that responses to the questions would be more focused on what we do. We do, however, continue to receive recommendations from respondents regarding infrastructure and services that we have no jurisdiction over, such as wastewater. And we have shared this information with our local municipal partners in the past in order to help them inform their budgets. But that doesn't really help us in the process. We've also seen a marked increase in respondents and organizations using this platform to lobby the committee and council to provide funding for special projects, which can skew the results due to the small number of respondents. Many of these projects are not planned for as they are not part of the scope of the county's direct responsibility. And it is difficult in these instances to determine if these opinions are truly representative of the larger population of the county and whether there is merit to any of the recommendations that are put forth. And that's due to the fact that annually it is noted that the number of respondents to our survey do not represent a large enough sector of the current population of the county to make this a valid data set of overall population and therefore could be deemed as a null result. A lot of the staff time and energy has gone into procuring input from the public throughout the last few years. Additionally, ELT spent a lot of time during this budget process to deliver and identify projects that meet the needs of the survey as they are proposed in the survey, and also to answer the questions that we put forth to them. So we're here today just to get an idea of what the committee's expectations are. The couple of questions we have asked ourselves are, what are the goals of the survey? On the next slide. What are the goals of the survey? And are we actually achieving the best results for you to make a good decision? So we wanted to just put those questions out there. We do have some options in the next presentation if you wanted to still do a survey, but at this point we're open to other suggestions. We have done other things such as a public engagement evening, an open house here at the county building. And we also did during the last budget have a public night after the budget was released in order for people to address the budget committee. So those are some other areas where we've tried some different things. So I'll open it up to comments.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that. I think we should break it down even a little more simpler and deal it with smaller chunks. First and foremost, if we go back to think of what the original intent of using or doing the questionnaire out there. And that was to engage the public, to engage feedback. But let's even back it up further and let's ask the committee. Do you feel that there's an importance of engaging the public through the budget process? I'm not saying that, I'm saying that in a neutral way, because I have my own opinion but I'm going to solicit your opinions first. Council, Deputy Warden.
Thank you. I thought there was, I don't think so anymore.
Yeah.
I think, for the staff time involved and for everybody in general, did we alter anything because of what we've seen? I don't think so.
No.
A lot of the stuff we're locked into, we can't change, right? And
I would agree with you on that. We're getting more and more, well, we are into a needs-based environment. I know at the local level, it's almost core projects or nothing. It's just, there isn't a lot of fat left in the system, but that's BAM. At the county level, it's still up to 9 colleagues around the table and see what they think. Mike, an opinion?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It's one we struggle with as well. We had a fairly new CAO treasurer and we're gonna have a public budget meeting. We threw a party, nobody came. And you see it at the county level too. There's the participation. Just ask the question, is it worth the time? Now, I think we have to be transparent in this process, be it through our website or whatever, to keep people at the very least a timeline of where we're at on it and some of the major issues. So we can't shut the public out.
Mhm.
But I don't think we have to throw a big party either.
Thank you for that. Councillor Sloan, any thoughts?
I'm just presuming staff are going to give a recommendation, so I'll defer to the experts.
Okay. I concur with you. We've had open houses here and no one's come. We had the most successful open house, my presence at the county was this last one where we had some participants at the end of the room after the budget process. And before it was adopted by council, they had some comments from that period. So if we're all thinking that, yeah, I agree with you. It's got to be transparent. The public has to have an opportunity or an avenue for input. Now it gets down to the really interesting question. How do we do this? Because I think you're right, Grant, and you're right, Mike, that this process that we had adopted in the past has created a lot of work for staff or not a lot of value. It's given us an indication of what a segment of the population may be thinking. But is there another way we can do this? So I don't know, but in BAM, what we do, whether it's right or wrong, is we'll adopt a budget schedule very early in the season. And we'll invite comments on the capital budget up till, say, the end of August. Then we'll invite comments from the operating side up until November, because we deliver a January budget, consolidated. It's not in a survey format. These comments all get published in a raw format and council gets fed them and they have an opportunity to look them over. Some of them are doable, most of them are not. They just don't fit. And whether that is something that's simpler, rather than having staff having to collate results through a questionnaire, which, what's it mean? At the end of the day, I don't know, but I know you're going to talk about methodology down the road here. Just throwing it out. Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. We can probably put initiating this discussion on the category of blame the new guy, because I don't believe in fixing things that aren't necessarily broken, but I do, and I have asked a lot of questions as to what do we do or why do we do it, or what was our intention in doing that. So I think some of your commentary off the start was some of my thought process when I started to look through our budgeting process is to understand what exactly was the intent of this and is it delivering? Because you're absolutely correct. It is a tremendous amount of work for our staff, and even a portion of that work put towards more communication and education to our public on, the services we provide, the service levels that we provide, the correlation between the service levels and the recommended or the required resources to deliver them, I think would go a lot longer and provide council certainly with greater benefit if, as I said, just a portion of that effort into more communications to our public. Obviously, it's a public process. They can provide commentary at any point in time. You guys being as elected officials, you know that there's no turning off your phones. The public will provide you commentary anytime they want to. So, but I think we can stress that the county is open to your thoughts, but do it on just an ongoing basis throughout the process. Instead of sort of a focused level of survey. I think you'll find the level of understanding on their part will be greater, which the feedback will be of more value to council.
Say agreed. Yeah. Anyone from Andrew? Do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, we have our the tremendous extra work. So help me understand a little bit here. We've got the budget, which the council has to get. So I think we prepare a budget, win, lose, or draw. Fair? Okay. So whether we put it on a website for someone to comment on, or whether we go to SurveyMonkey, which would take approximately 30 minutes, I don't think is an issue. But if we only get 500 people back and it's not relevant what the input is, then I see the point, because it's not a standard deviation or whatever that statistical number is. So I think there's optics to doing it. And at the end of the day, my question is, if you're worried about the data being skewed, that's one piece, which goes to Blaine and the communication. But overall, the actual putting out a survey, I don't think is that intensive. So my two cents. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Comment from staff? No? Okay, here's a question, and I'm going to put to somebody. Rather than correlating the data by hand, which you're currently doing, if you use an application such as SurveyMonkey, and will that correlate the data for you? But you'd have to be leading questions. Pick A, B, C, or D. And is that the role you want to be, or do we want to lead the questioning, or would we rather have free will comments coming to us? What would you like to see coming from Elgin County? Grant?
I would prefer just somebody sending me or staff an email saying, this is what I'm concerned about and this is why I'm concerned about it. You're right. Surveys can be very leading, and you're going to get answers that are sometimes out of spite or just anger. So I would rather see somebody explain why they don't want something or they want something.
I tend to agree with you on that. Honestly, I do. I think if it's important enough, they'll find a way to communicate with us. If it's just a Saturday night, let's kick off some steam here. Like what? No, that's not going to do us any good. And again, that's why we have the professional team around the table. If you think maybe we're thinking wrong, please speak up. It's all one effort.
Through you, Mr. Warden, to the committee, we do have the tool that we are using does correlate the majority of the data.
Mhm.
However, the questions, there's 29 questions in this survey, which is quite lengthy. And of that, there is probably 5 or 6 of them that are free flow answers, which takes a lot of time for us to read, go through, sort of understand what the issue is, and then put it into sort of a category. So that's what's taking the time. Also, the fact that it is like within a small time frame.
Mhm.
So I know our library staff have been really good at getting input. However, a lot of that input is done on paper because some of the people who come in are not able to access computers or maybe have a disability that they will need to have extra help. So we actually input that information verbatim into the system so that it will correlate itself. So that does take some extra time, as well as our staff are then taking that data and trying to answer questions that relate to the data as opposed to just, this is what we really need. And we're trying to massage it so that it fits into the categories, right?
Mhm.
So I think maybe the survey itself is just overwhelmingly large and maybe has too much area for people to leave comment. So I think that's sort of a way we could still have a survey if we skinnied it down quite a bit. And even I have proposed some options for the committee to review if they wish, to still go down that road as like having a survey. So
Okay. I think from the committee's perspective, I think there's still a desire to allow or not allow, that's the wrong word, engage the public. I think there's that desire. And I think our stumbling block is the methodology on how to do it. I think we understand the purpose and the goals. I think we all understand that perhaps we aren't achieving the best result with the 29 question survey or questionnaire. So is there anything under this particular topic we need to further discuss before we go on with the next, which is the proposed budget survey review? Let's go to the next. So if you got a motion to move us along, Catherine? We can do that.
That the report titled Public Engagement Review from the Chief Administrative Officer Clerk and the Director of Financial Services Treasurer be received and filed.
We have a mover and seconder for that. Counselor Hentz and Deputy Warden Jones. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now let's move on with the proposed budget survey review.
Mr. Warden, to the committee. I'm just presenting, I went through the budget survey as it exists now, and I'm presenting some options for making this a bit of an easier survey. And certainly we can take questions off of this as well and make it even smaller if that's what the committee so desires. So the first one that we had in the survey, question 1 and 2 were, what municipality do you live in? I think that's valid data. One of the other items was, I do not live in Elgin County. We did have some recipients actually respond to our survey who did not live in Elgin County. The second question is, what primary category do you pay taxes in, commercial, residential, or agricultural? We could take that question out if you so desire, or we could leave that in. One question that I would like to add or think that we could add is, did you review the County of Elgin's 2024 budget document? So it would be nice for them to have some context before they answer this question, if they did read it or they did not read it. That is optional. So of these 3 questions, is there any that you would or would not want to include?
Number 3 tends to imply that you have to have a draft budget in place before they participate in the review.
This would be asking them to review the prior year's budget document, not
Thank you.
current year's.
Thank you. Sorry. Got to keep reminding myself we're in 2024.
So this would be for, and
Yeah.
yes, that's good in context. This would be for the 2025
Yes.
budget survey.
Okay, sorry about that.
We can come back to this.
Let's
one
come
and
back then.
Move to the next slide. So then in our documents, we had this question was number 2020. It was number 24. So I've skipped quite a number of other document informations that relate specifically to departmental budget line items and asked a general question pick your top 2 priorities that you believe Elgin County should spend more tax dollars on. I mean, the basis for the other questions were for respondents to determine if that was a high priority for them or not a high priority. So this basically does the same thing in a nutshell. One of the thing that I would like to take off is there's a suggested answer of not sure, need to know more. And the other one is other, which was a free flow question. And so there was opportunity at that point to put in more verbal answer. And at the next part, we missed adding economic development and planning to our document options. So those would be some that we could add in place of those 2 areas instead. I'll just continue on and then we can go back to this. The next one is question 5. Acceptable ways to increase spending on these services would include, and now this one was question 25 in the previous survey. And then again, we would suggest removing not sure, need to know more, and other, which was again a free flow question. And we would like to add, suggest that adding increased debt or increase, or another suggestion by the committee. That was the only one I could really come up with. So if there's another option for funding, we could put that in there as well. On the next slide, there was a question number 26. Fewer tax dollars should be spent on, and then respondents could select their top 2 items. So this would give you the idea of what's most important and what's least important to the individuals. Again, we had other and not sure, need to know more on there, and we missed adding the business areas of economic development and planning. And we could add other areas as suggested by the committee if you feel the need. Number 27, if tax increases are necessary to maintain or improve the level of service provided by the county, what would be an acceptable yearly tax increase? And it was saying over the next 10 years. So we'd like to remove the over the next 10 years because this would be relating to a tax increase just for 2025. This question was previously question number 27. And so we're just again suggesting removing other and maybe replacing it with 6% plus or increase consistent with the CPI increase as another option. And then the final slide related to this question was previously number 28, and this was just a free flow question that we had in there. What other comments do you have or suggestions for budget or council? We would like to focus respondents by forcing them to choose a drop-down box before they would be able to put a comment in. And also we can limit their responses by either asking them to choose the budget survey as an invite. So we could, if people want to respond to the survey, we can ask them to send their email and we can send them a link with a private invitation. So then we would know that we weren't getting spammed or like a lobby group, or we can just make sure that the IP address of their computer is only able to be registered once within our survey. So I think those are ways we could potentially make sure that we're getting individual respondents as opposed to multiple responses from one computer. And that's really all that I had thought about. But if we want to add or subtract and make this smaller, larger, I'm open to those options.
Jen, how many questions overall are you looking at?
This would be it's like 7 questions, I believe. 8
Yeah.
questions.
Be a lot more palatable, I think, than 29.
Yeah, it's taking it down at least 21 questions from where we were in the past.
So in other words, in order to do to have more significance out of it, you would want to have most of those 7 questions?
7 of the 8 questions.
7 of the 8
would be
questions.
just pick something.
Correct, with the eighth question being your other comment.
yeah.
And that's where you address anything like, no, I want a 20% tax increase
Well-
Well, we
No.
could also limit the number of words in that box as well too. So we could make it such that we didn't get, we did have one respondent that was sent in probably 5,000 words.
5,000.
It's just a lot. And we didn't realize at the time that it wasn't, contained, so they just kept talking. But it would be great to keep it to within 500 words or some such thing.
They went to the effort. I mean, you almost need to pay attention to it, eh? Andrew, please.
Can I ask through you to Jen, how long you've been doing the survey?
Through you, Mr. Warren, and Mr. Sloan. We actually started this in 2022.
Yep.
Was our first year that we did the survey.
And just to follow up, do we not have any peer places, upper tiers that might be doing the same thing that we could take a look at? I guess I'm not as comfortable. Two things. One, if we are going to question or make comments on this document, it wasn't on my list here for what was involved in the meeting. I'd like some time to take a look at it, if that's okay, before I make comments, if I could do that. And secondly, I wondered if we'd done anything where we've looked at other municipalities and what they do. Thank you.
Well, just throw it out quickly. Again, I've already indicated what Bayham does. Perhaps we've got a couple other, Dutton, Dunwich, Southwold. How do you guys do your budgeting over there? And your public consultation. I don't know if everybody's the same. I doubt if we are. But to be honest with you, from Bayham's perspective, we welcome your comments, but you got to make the effort to put the comment forward. Use our website or use our email, whatever you like. But it's not just pick A, B, C, or D. No, you tell us what you want. And we'll let you know whether we can get there. Now, Grant, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I think we attempted a survey several years ago and found it not a lot of help. There was some good comments, but I think those comments, like you said, could be and most of those people were engaged, that made comments that actually made sense, or at least were not a rant. And those people could have easily just done that on a website, just to go to a comment page and make those comments as well. The survey, you get a lot of stuff that people don't understand, or they're just plain mad about something. That's unfortunate. That's the way, and that was the only year we did it, because it does take a lot of time for staff. And if somebody's genuine, they will make an attempt to contact somebody, or at least send an email to somebody.
They generally do. Mike, Summer?
Yeah, Mr. Warden, we've done the public meeting, put on the big show, not successful. We've done online surveys. And I guess I look at it, if we're going to this work, what do we get out of it? So I would ask the department heads, as you build your budgets, do you go to the survey and say, geez, I better throw some more money in the roads because so-and-so said so? What value is the county gleaning from all of the work and time that we put into this? That would be my question to building a budget.
From through me to you. From my perspective, staff are very aware of what their departments need and in order to meet council directives. I mean, we look to you as our guide more so than the public, because you have a better handle on what we are doing and also what the county needs from the various areas that you represent. So, I mean, this is a tool in order to seek public engagement But whether or not there is something more useful to us that could be available to the public on a general basis throughout the year so that they could have a comment on something. But from my perspective, something after the budget is created is more effective because it's already set and people can have a comment on it. But we've already set that unless it's going to make a change to your decisions as to what you're going to fund. So I'm not really sure that we get a lot out of it. We're trying to do it for public engagement and to be transparent. But if we choose to do the finance committee and be more transparent through the finance committee, it may be a better option for people to learn and to understand more what we do.
Andrew, please.
So provincial government, federal government, we've all been asked to go in advance of the budget to deal with the province, to deal with the feds. We did 2 town halls in Central Elgin last week. What about taking a day and doing a finance road tour for Elgin County? We could go to all the municipalities and take it to them. Our 2 town halls last week in Belmont and Lyndhurst had 40 to 60 people. It would take us maybe an afternoon or a full day for us to go. We could break up the committee, we could go and we could engage people and say, we'll be at the following place. I think transparency is important. Maybe that's, just the way that we look at it from a different perspective, but I every other government does it. So I don't know why we would stop, but those are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Blaine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. A couple of thoughts. I think in my own opinion, I've been involved in a number of municipal budgets and a number of different areas. And there's no silver bullet or shiny object that is the perfect way of engaging your public. I think a more constant level of engagement and communication with your public, I think you'll find goes a lot longer than just a more intense survey. So my recommendation to committee would be, don't look at a specific survey around your budget, but enhance your communications and your understanding for your public to then just walk away with a better grasp on the services and service levels the county provides. My second thought would be to focus on just that, is the services and service levels that we provide, and not so much on the budget. As I've spoken to council on a couple of occasions this year, we will start, and it will take a couple of years to evolve to, but a more robust business planning format instead of just a budgeting format, because quite frankly, the dollars or the people to implement the services or service levels is a secondary discussion. It's where council wants to take the services and service levels of the community. That's what we need to know. And I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Sloan. I think that the open house concept, in my opinion, has worked more favorable in the past than other things, because you actually get people out, and a lot of people want to engage in a discussion. They're more than happy to come out and talk to you about things versus, sending you emails, that may or may not come across as rants about certain subjects. But if someone actually wants to put the effort in and have a discussion with members of council or members of the executive team, they'll come out and they'll do that. And you'll find it, you'll walk away with, they'll walk away with a much better understanding. Again, focus those open houses more on services and service levels, not just on financial resources. If someone knocks on my door and asks me if they want my taxes to go up, my answer, of course, would be no. But if I understand what those taxes are being used for, then you've taken the discussion from a cost-based discussion to a value-based discussion. And I think you'll find those much more valuable, because they're getting to the true source of what those costs go to, and not just the costs themselves. So I think that the open house type of platform, certainly I've seen it work probably the best out of all the different methodologies that I've seen over the years. And I said, we'd be more than happy to start to prepare that type of approach to things.
This would be a post-draft open house and what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think the timing can be sort of as we're going through the business planning process or post draft. I think if you're talking to people about services and service levels and the related resources required to implement those, then we can certainly draw upon on the plan and the budget that that council passed for 2024. I think our team has a very good handle on what it takes to implement the current services and service levels. So it could even actually be throughout the business planning process that we can then start to adjust the services or the levels of those services.
Thoughts, Grant?
Yeah, I do like Counselor Sloan's idea of doing a road trip. I don't think you could do it one day. It's, I think you're probably looking at 2 days, two separate events, because it didn't work here at the county. The only public member we got was Jed, and he came because Dominique made him. So, but I think if you went to the west for a couple hours in each spot, to the east for a couple hours each spot, I think that could work. Obviously, it's taking time to do it, but if, I think you would probably get better, because people aren't gonna drive from West Lauren into county for just to have their time. It's probably not gonna happen for the most part. You're gonna get people from Central Elgin, Southold, maybe a bit of Malahide. But for people from Bayham, I don't think it's probably gonna happen either, even the north side of Malahide. But I do like the idea of the concept to some sort, and I guess we'd have to figure out how much time you want to spend at each place, because you're still looking at a half-hour trip, and if you got displays to set up, there's another time, more time to set up your billboards or whatever, and if it's a walkthrough.
Agreed, the logistics of it, we could work that out, and whether you could do it as a late afternoon, early evening thing, or you're not gonna, my thoughts were that you're not going to capture people in the middle of the day. So it's got to be later in the day if you're going to do it. But that's something that we can, think about. Yeah, I'm not afraid of open houses. It's whether you can get enough attention and attraction to make it worthwhile. Last one I think that we really did was on the Natural Heritage System Study, wasn't it? And some of them, I think, had some good attendance. I think the one down here at the Masonic Center was better attended than Springfield, which I thought was better attended than the one in Dutton, but who knows? Yeah, yeah. Mike, you got some?
Mr. Warden, we don't know until we try, basically, and I would be open to an event like that.
So as again, as part of the budget development process, that could happen. What would you like to see? That's the messaging. Or if it's a post-budget development or process, and it's where did we mess up? What I'm trying to get at. I think the questions are a little bit different. Does this preclude then the need to go out and consult ahead of time? What would you like to see in it? Does it preclude the need of a questionnaire? I still am leaning to where the deputy warden is saying, send us your comments. What would you like to see in Elgin County's budget? And that's the messaging going out across the other, all forms of media. Tell us what you'd like to see. We'll try and incorporate it, and then we'll come around and talk to you. Essentially, that's. Jen?
Mr. Warden, to the committee, essentially that's question number 8, is just a free flow.
Yeah.
Do you have comments or suggestions for our budget committee? So that would be something we could use as an option.
Of course, you'd want to limit to 10,000 words, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Blaine.
Yeah, I think what we could do, what's starting to come together in my mind, would be, as we're going through the business planning process, I would suggest.
Microphone.
Sorry, Councillor Sloan, thank you for the reminder. What's starting to formulate in my mind is I would recommend the open houses as we're going through the business planning process to provide input into that and gear those discussions more to services and service levels. Once the draft starts to take a form, then I would suggest we could have a fillable form that's available on our website that says you can provide, comments, and continue to communicate that out to our residents. And I think that would capture the essence of what I'm hearing, committee is looking for anyways. But as far as a numbered question survey, I would steer away from that and go more to the open house ahead of time and just a simple sort of feedback form as things start to formulate a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Seeing some nods. It's all we can do. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I'm not afraid to try new methods. Show me a better mousetrap. We're just buying time, giving Catherine a chance to smith something up here. I'll invite any comments or thoughts from the leadership team. Are we on the right track or are we off our?
Through you, Mr. Warden, to the members of the committee, we think you're on the right track.
We haven't fallen off the rocker yet, eh? Thanks for the encouragement. Burdens of leadership, sir.
That Elgin County enhance communications to promote public engagement by accepting continuous feedback through email and plan for several budget town hall events as part of the 2025 budget development process.
How's that sound, Counselor Sloan? You'll move that one? Okay, I need a seconder. Deputy Warden Jones? All in favor? Perfect, that's carried. Thank you very much for that. Moving on, then the 6-4, Director of Financial Services Treasurer, the Finance Department status review.
Through you, Mr. Warden, to members of the committee. I just wanted to bring forward an update of what your finance team has been doing in the last little while. So at this time, the 2023 year end, so next slide, please. The auditors have been on site in March and again in May to review the operating and capital year end. We're working now to complete the final entries and we'll bring this forward to council once the year end is completed. We're hoping for early July. That's dependent on whether the auditors can get everything finalized within our timelines as well. Next slide. We're also working on our budget software implementation. This project started March 26th. Finance staff, including the director, have been twice weekly meeting with the team to set aside time just to focus on this project, aside from all the other things that we do. Discuss the next steps with the software implementation team, and we've had 9 meetings with them to date. And we converting current practices into new practices or similar practices. So we've filled out 4 major multi-tab spreadsheets at this point, and they've been now populating them into the new database. So we got to see that last week, and we're starting to do some testing on that. And so we're learning from the ground up as well, doing some training videos as we go through that process. The total projected timeline for this will be to deliver budgets hopefully in the 2025 year for fall with an online book to follow. So that budget book will also help to do public consultation as well. It can be a public engagement on our website. So they'll be able to actively click through things and see what they want to see on that budget workbook. So that comes after the budget is populated. And we currently have to maintain budget in our old system and in the new system. So we're doing comparative analysis as we speak at this time. Accounting software implementation, this began end of May and is slated to be completed end of June. So they're looking to go live on June 26th. The BAS implementation team is working behind the scenes as we work live in the existing system. And we're scheduling the training for tomorrow, which is in the afternoon. And the team will have to do some testing as to, we have a lot of things that interact with ACPAC, our Sage 300 system. So we have to make sure that all that functionality is there and make sure that's all working before we can go live fully in the new system. So that's what we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks for that. And final updates later on will help repoint some of our spreadsheets that we use. And then after that, we hope to move on to the reporting software. We have not yet signed that contract, so we're waiting to do that. So that's where we are with our finance team implementation initiatives. Any questions?
Yeah, that was a curious statement. I haven't signed the contract for reporting software side.
The reporting software is an additional add-on at the end. So there's nothing really for them to do until we have everything working.
All right. Same, it's all included in the same package though, right?
No, it's a separate company and entity as well.
So additional cost for the,
No, this was all approved within
Yeah.
the reporting software that we brought to council at the end of last year.
okay, all right. Guess I misunderstood at the time. Any questions from committee members? Deputy Warden?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So you're entering the old system, which seem to be multiple entries, plus you're entering the new system. Good for you.
That is something that is a normal practice when you're doing implementation of software. You have to do multiple. We had to do that with our payroll system as well, because you have to have your base and then you're testing against the new one to make sure that the results are the same before you want to rely on that new system.
We don't want the Phoenix system. Any questions from anyone for Jen? Any more? Well, for one, I do look forward to having your new system up and running. I still believe that it will be invaluable not only to department heads for tracking purposes, but also will help assist this committee in the new role that it envisions to take on. So. Okay. I don't see any other hands up or questions. So Catherine?
That the presentation titled Finance Department Status Review from the Director of Financial Services Treasurer be received and filed.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Hentz. Gonna pick on Counselor Sloan. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Good. We have a closed meeting. We can ignore that. Okay. Staff have any recommendations on the next budget committee meeting date? Call the chair. All right. Well, this is surprising. I thought I'd be here all afternoon. I guess we're ready for adjournment unless there's something else from any committee member. Yes, committee member Hentz.
Mr. Warden, I just have a question. And one of the issues that the last budget council had to deal with was the request for donations and a couple of very large ones.
Oh.
So my question is staff going to bring forward recommendations on dealing with that type of thing, or is this something the committee's going to tackle?
I'm going to turn this over to Blaine. We've had a discussion on this, and I think he and his senior leadership team have had some discussions moving forward. So Blaine?
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you to members of committee. Two thoughts on that front, Councillor Hentz. One, the grants and donations policy and the county's approach to grants and donations is just in its first initial steps of being reviewed. So that sort of entire approach will be reviewed, and what we'll probably look to out of that is to broaden the types of streams that are available through that process. Not necessarily each stream would follow the identical process, but there would be a certain level of more formalities to each approach so that there wouldn't just be random coming into any department or coming forward to council. They would follow a more formal process. So that's sort of the process that will follow. As far as funding that goes, Ms. Ford and I have started some discussions around a more, and I mentioned this during the terms of reference discussion, a financial policies framework to guide, at least give council some consideration on how those reserves are used and what they're used for. So that's more the funding side of those types of requests. So between those two elements that will be coming forward to committee and to council, I'm hopeful that we'll have a more solid approach to dealing with those in the very near future.
Deals with it, gives you an indication.
Yeah, thank you. We're dealing with it, I guess is.
Right.
That's good.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks. All good with you, Andrew? Perfect. And Grant, you're good for today? Okay. Please.
Resolved that we do now adjourn at 2:09 PM to meet again at the call of the chair.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Warden Jones and Councillor Hentz, all in favor? We are adjourned.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.